Welcome guys to Kieran Horn CFB, back at you with another very special video. Bit of a history lesson today actually, as we're going to talk about the career and I guess life to an extent of Denard Robinson. You might know him better as Shoelace or the final cover athlete of the NCAA 14 football game, the last one that's available on the market until the new release in 2023. Anyway guys, as always, if you liked the video, thumbs up. If you dislike it, thumbs down, and then leave a comment about what you liked, disliked, and what you'd like to see in the next video. And finally, we are trying to grow the channel, trying to hit 150 to 200 subscribers within the next few months. So if you hit subscribe, click the bell, turn notifications on, and you will get all that fresh YouTube content, all this great college football content that I'm giving you. Humble guy, you can tell. But all this great football content come straight to your inbox. But without further ado, let's get into the video. How many people have had a childhood nickname that just stuck? For me, my old initials after I got adopted were KP, so that pretty much stuck instantly. It's not a creative nickname, but that's how I got my nickname, and it just stuck. I've got friends that I've known my entire life who still call me KP. So the answer is actually a lot of you. A lot of you have had childhood nicknames, but it's doubtful that you've ever heard 100,000 people chanting your name. That's not the case for Denard Robinson, though. Earning the nickname Shoelace as a 10-year-old in Pee Wee football for his unwillingness to tie the laces on his cleats. His coaches didn't like it, and neither of his opponents. One of his Pee Wee coaches even said kids would just go for his shoes on tackles, and he'd just come up to the huddle in just socks. They'd tie wristband around his shoes, and when that didn't work, athletic tape. They even rolled his socks over his cleats. He was a marvel, and he wasn't even done with 6th grade. As he continued his high school career at Deerfield Beach High School in Florida, the legend of Shoelace grew. There was no Denard Robinson anymore. He was Shoelace. His mum still called him Denard. Obviously. When he first started playing football though, Shoelace actually tried out for a spot as a defensive back. Now, that's crazy to think because we know him as a quarterback, but when you talk about his athletic ability, it kind of makes sense. But his high school team's defensive coordinator, who was actually former Bills DB Manny Martin, had a very experienced secondary and didn't think Shoelace was quite ready for varsity, despite his protests. Subsequently, Shoelace ended up under center for the JV team as a 9th grader, and Shoelace eventually became the varsity team signal caller as a sophomore, a spot he held for the remaining 3 years. Shoelace had that something special when you watched him play, totaling almost 6,000 yards of total offense, all while finishing 3rd in the state 100 meters. That's right, he won a 10.4 second time, all with his shoelaces untied. That's crazy. When it came to the hitting the next level though, Shoelace was a highly touted recruit. ESPN had him ranked as the 7th in the country as a pure athlete, and teams like Georgia, Florida, and Michigan had offered him all before his senior season was over. And after his initial offer from Michigan came in to play DB, Shoelace declined. He wanted to play QB, and it wasn't till a scout finally saw him pass that they decided to offer him at the quarterback position. Shoelace could finally fill his dream of playing quarterback at the college level, and on the 4th of February 2009, he signed his letter of intent to play quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines. Upon his arrival though, and to start his freshman season, Shoelace had to compete with fellow freshman Tate Forcier and junior Nick Sheridan. While Forcier was named as the starting signal caller after spring camp, Shoelace ended up having a significant role as he appeared in all 12 games of his freshman season. Despite his first snap for Michigan being fumbled, Shoelace turned it into a touchdown. 43 yards to the crib. That's money. Shoelace continued his dominance during his 4 years with the Wolverines, ending his career with 6,250 passing yards, 49 touchdowns, coupled with 4,095 ground yards and 42 scores. He was also responsible for 8 of the 10 top yardage games in Michigan Wolverines history. It's unreal. Shoelace left school as the only 1,500-yard passer and rusher, the most FBS 200-yard passing and rushing games, most Big Ten rushing yards by a QB, that's for single game, single season, and career, most Big Ten Player of the Week awards, To go with all these records, Shoelace was also voted the NCAA 14 cover athlete, as I mentioned earlier. And since that was the last copy of the game until 2023, like I mentioned, you can now find the copy of the game selling online for over $300. That's a valuable guy. Going pro would be a different story though. As his ability was limited, Shoelace told teams that he would be open to switching positions, and his 4.340 made him a very attractive prospect for NFL team looking for that extra burst. Subsequently, the Jacksonville Jaguars decided to draft Shoelace with the 135th overall pick in the 5th round. And while he was listed as a running back on the roster, coaching staff in Jacksonville referred to him as an offensive weapon. Think Taysom Hill or Cordero Patterson. Shoelace struggled to get much playing time though in the NFL, and after his 4th season he signed with the Atlanta Legends of the ill-fated Alliance of American Football, or AAF, where he appeared in 7 games and had 66 yards and a touchdown coupled with 7 passes for 37 yards before he was eventually put on IR. And that's all she wrote for Shoelace's career in a playing capacity, but like all winners do, Shoelace landed on his feet. In the summer of 2019, not long after Shoelace left the AAF, he landed a job with the Jacksonville University Dolphins as an offensive analyst until the program discontinued less than a year later. In 2020, Shoelace was hired by his former pro team, the Jaguars, and as an offensive quality control expert until Urban Meyer was hired and he moved to the front office, ending up as a college scout. Most recently, though, Shoelace joined his alma mater as the assistant of player personnel of the Michigan Wolverines football program. So you might be thinking, you've gone through Denard's entire story, but you've not talked about the Shoelace things much. Which actually brings me to the next point of the video, and we're going to get a little bit into the science of the Shoelace, what advantages or disadvantages it may have, and how it actually helped him as a player. So, did they affect his performance, having his cleats untied? And the answer is actually yes, quite a bit. According to ESPN sports science and analyst John Brenkus, who said, without ever relying on laced-up shoes for stabilization, Robinson has built up a greater interior foot strength, which allows his feet to absorb more force when stopping. This basically allowed Shoelace to stop on a dime, change direction quickly, and absorb less wear and tear on his feet, which, his injuries weren't his feet, but here's what it is. To quote John Brenkus, again, like a barefoot runner, Robinson relies on his midfoot to make contact with the ground, dispersing and reducing impact of bodyweight forces by up to half, allowing Robinson to literally be lighter on his feet. So there you have it. If you want to be a top NFL athlete, just stop tying your shoelaces. Just run, bro. Thank you very much for listening to the end of this video. I hope this was a little bit of an interesting story for you guys to digest. A lot of people just know him as the cover athlete for NCAA Football 14, and nobody really knows about his story, where he came from, and, just how quickly his playing career, sort of wound down, just as quickly as it started almost. But thank you for making it to the end of the video. Like I said at the start, thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't, comment down below what you liked, didn't like, what you'd like to see next. And before I remind you to subscribe, click the bell notification, which you definitely should do, because I've got a very new series coming soon called Introducing the Rookies, where we're going to talk about some of the more interesting NFL rookies this year. So we're not going to talk about Kenny Pickett or, we're actually going to talk about guys like Desmond Ridder, and not just because my Cincy video did bits. Guys like him, Malik Willis, Drake London, some very exciting players who maybe you didn't get as much of an opportunity to see while they were at college, because, with the exception of Drake London, maybe didn't get enough shine, didn't get as much as they deserved. So, thank you very much for tuning in, and just like always, I'll see you guys in the next one.